So this is something that still haunts me to this day. I've traveled to many places under many different circumstances. I was living homeless in Paris and in the Charles de Gaulle airport for a while. I was in Central America for a while. I'm just saying things didn't always work out. And out of all those things that I can say on air, one of my favorite learning experiences in the world of travel was my first time in Germany. Have you ever been to Germany?
I have not. It's on my list, just under Japan and probably Thailand, but it's up there. But I mean, first of all, you living homeless at the Charles de Gaulle airport sounds like a Tom Hanks movie. Is Terminal based off of you? But in a more romantic way.
Oh, well, it was shout out to Tom Hanks. It was before Terminal, or it was before I was aware of Terminal. So I very much didn't feel cool about it. I was like, look, I'm a hipster, but this is too much. And that story, I did not intend to be on the streets of Paris. And it wasn't for a long time, but I'd saved up for a return ticket. And in desperation, when things fell through, I used some change because payphones were a thing at that time, and called my parents and asked them if there was any way they could help me out with an earlier ticket. And my dad just laughed his ass off and said, "No, good luck. This is a learning experience." But I did make it back.
Did you have to like busk your way home? Were you doing like chalk art or miming or?
There was one busking situation. There was one busking situation on the train, and it was just, it was some very nice musicians who were like, there was one day where I was like, you can just kind of ride the train forever, right? Nobody's loitering. I'm just kind of, technically, I'm going somewhere. And this group of musicians came in, like a accordion, I think a guitar or something like that, and they were singing, and they're singing songs in French. I also didn't speak French. Right. I was not a clever man, and so they started singing "What a Wonderful World," the Louis Armstrong version,
right?
And I joined in and. Well, I joined in and sang, but I was singing in English, and they still, they threw me a little bit of change. It was very nice. But with that experience, I was like, okay, you have to be a more responsible traveler. If you're going to go to these places, you need to be safe. And as cool as it is to just drop everything and say, I'm going to go blah, blah, blah. And as much as you dig improv, there are some situations where planning is key. And so I thought about this, and I was like, I'm going to be classy. I'm going to know what I'm doing. I'm not going to be a dumb American tourist, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to break that stereotype. And I was okay with it. I ended up, after Central America, marrying my high school sweetheart.
All right.
And it was a beautiful, beautiful moment, and it was a beautiful time. We scrimped and we saved to go on a honeymoon, and this was a big expense for us. We wanted to travel internationally, and my partner at the time, she really, really wanted to go to Germany, and so this is before. To date myself further, this is before I had a smartphone. This is before I could pull up a bunch of easy to find information. So I did serious research, man. As someone who doesn't speak German,
this is after the wall had fallen, though, right? We're not going that far.
Yes. Not that far back.
Okay.
No. So this was, let's see, this is probably early 2000s.
Okay.
And so I was like, a level of planning I had never before thought myself capable of. Like I knew when the plane was going to land. Good job, me. I knew that there was a hotel we were going to go to, bonus points there. And I had I had a rough itinerary. I was like, here's some historic sites we can see. And I'll figure out a romantic dinner situation, right?
I feel like this is primetime MapQuest too, right? Like where you print out MapQuest printed directions. You know what I mean? Those days.
I printed out directions. I had a little folder. It was adorable. And so the day comes and we travel. I think first we land in London, and we're in London for a few days. Mm-hmm. And there's something just, I know it's cliche to say, but there's something like romantic about not having a ton of money, but being with the person you love. And like you hear that situation, and some parts of our heads just kind of say romance in italicized font.
Right.
And
we don't need money. We just have each other. That's all we need.
Exactly. That was, anyway, so London, it turns out, is kind of pricey. So we left. We had already been planning to go to Germany, but we had a few days in London, and then we left London. We're landing in Berlin, and this is the moment, Will. I have spent months sort of trying to learn all this sort of stuff. I didn't want my partner to have to worry about everything.
Right.
And one of the things I did, despite not knowing a lick of German, is I had memorized German phrases. And, I was well aware, and this is a true thing for people who haven't been to Europe. Mm-hmm. I was well aware that many residents of Western Europe, regardless of the country or the official language, they probably speak a better version of English than a lot of us Americans.
Yeah, a lot of them speak 4 languages, no problem. And the extent of my German, just so you know, is from the time I played the MC in Cabaret in 2008.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. I wish you had been there with me in Germany. I could have used a hand.
I could have willkommen and, beyond Vanud.
Yes.
My way through the
Yes,
city.
exactly. So I quickly learned, like I knew most people would probably speak English on some level, especially in, the capital of Germany. Right. It's an international city, Berlin. So I immediately was locked and loaded with my thank yous and my excuse me's and where's the bathroom, etc. But I got a lot of stuff wrong. We were walking widely, and we were using the train system. And my first encounter with a German authority, like after getting out of customs, was a guy came up and said something to me in German, and I didn't understand what he was saying. So I just kind of like shrugged in what I hoped was an endearing and innocent way. And then something like he knew immediately that we were from the US, because he just sort of took a breath, tried not to roll his eyes, and he said, "Tickets?" in English. And in English I replied, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. I don't have any money. I don't have any and he goes, "I'm asking to check your tickets." And I went, "Oh, you work here? Oh shit, my bad, dude." And then he wasn't amused, but he was nice enough. So we continue on, and I'm talking to my wife at the time, and I say, and we'll call her Kate for the purposes of this story. I said, Kate, I feel like, I know every country has a stereotype, and I know stereotypes are the source of like terrible, terrible things, but do these German folks seem a little bit kind of like cold to you? a little brusque? And she says,
not so warm and fuzzy, not so
warm and fuzzy.
Giving out hugs
not
at the
one
border.
Not one stranger hugged me, but she pointed out we're from the southeastern United States, which is a place that is known for being a little more outgoing, being a little more casual with whomever. And I wanted to bust these stereotypes, even though I thought she had a point. So my phrase that I was very proud of that I had worked on, and I had 15 phrases, 10 of which were useful, 4 of which were pretty good. My accent was terrible, but 4 of which would be intelligible. And one of the ones I was most proud of is that if people came up to us and were speaking to us in German, I would try my best. That was my rule. I'd try my best to speak some German.
Right.
If they happened to ask a question that could be answered one of these 15 ways. But my emergency, man, my escape hatch was if if their German is too fast or if I'm clearly over my head, I'll say, I'm sorry, my German is not good enough to continue this conversation. Can we continue in English? And I deployed this strategy.
That's a pretty advanced sentence right there to say.
Right.
Like, all I know is Ich liebe dich, which is I love you, which I feel like would also, get you out of a situation.
I should have learned that one. Where was I? Anyway, so we're like walking on the street, and we're here for a period of weeks. So we're walking on the street, and then sometimes people would just come up and ask us stuff. This is around winter, so the Christmas markets are in full swing. People are in a generally good mood.
The techno Vikings are in the street.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And everybody, and I didn't know this either. You can drink anywhere in Germany, and you could buy beer everywhere. It's weird.
That sounds about right. It's like the Las Vegas of Europe.
I love that. Yeah. Okay, that's the quotable. So I would have this experience that became increasingly common. So for some reason or another, we'd be talking to someone, all right, like go to a restaurant, try to order something, and I would butcher the German, and they would still respond in German. Then I would say, I'm sorry, my German is not good enough to continue this conversation. Can we continue in English? And then they would pause, and I could feel the temperature tick down, and then they would say, yes. And we would have this very chilling, cold, perfunctory kind of conversation in English. And we stayed at a hostel, again, financial concerns being a thing. And after about 2 weeks, I was convinced that some stereotypes are true. And I was like, maybe I'm too warm and fuzzy, but I feel like this city, if not this country, is not hostile, but they're not sweethearts. Right. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And it had me thinking all these horrible things. I was like, man, World War II though, and so I
guess it's all true. What happened during World War II?
I know. I didn't.
We should have gone to Prague.
We should have gone to Prague. And I would say stuff like this to my wife, and she would go, well, assumptions are bad, blah, blah, blah. And she kind of cut the conversation off. So fast forward, end of our trip. This is also, and I don't mean to bring us down here, but this is also right after, during our honeymoon, we had decided it wasn't going to work out.
Oh, wow.
And we were going to be friends, but we were like, we're going to have to break up. And there was no huge dramatic fight or anything like that. Wow. These are two emotionally aware people making a mutual decision. But
did Germany and did the honeymoon location have anything to do with, if you'd maybe ended up in Hawaii, would things have been different?
That's a question I've asked myself sometimes, but here's what happened. So it's fast forward. It's like the very last day. It's the penultimate day. It's the second to last day before we leave. And I'm in the lobby of the hostel, and someone who is also staying at the hostel, it comes up. They're talking to me in German about something. So I say, I'm sorry, my German's not good enough to continue this conversation. Could we continue in English? And this lady stops. She pauses. And then in a flawless American accent, she says, "You're a dick," and leaves. And the person at the counter of the hostel who's working there cracks up. It's like she is laughing. She's actually laughing. And I turn around and I go, what happened? I'm worried that I did something. I didn't know what I could have done.
What did you say? What have you been saying this whole time?
I know. She says, do you know what you're saying? I said, yeah, I'm saying blah, 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 blah. And she said, no, you're saying, I'm sorry, your German is not good enough to continue. Can we continue this conversation in English? And she told me the German way. And I said, oh shit, I've been saying that to everybody. And she goes, I know, I've seen it. And then I go and I run upstairs. I get my wife. I'm like, Kate, I fucked something up. And And I was wrong. It's not a stereotype. It's us. And she goes, oh yeah, yeah, I know. And I was like, you knew this whole time? And she's like, yeah, it's hilarious, right? I'm like, no, it's not hilarious. And so I was trying to apologize to people in the hostel. I went back to this restaurant and was like, hey, I know things, my bad. And maybe I made it a bigger issue than it actually was. But if you are a German speaker, if you live in Germany, I would like to officially apologize.
Welcome back. It's time for everybody's favorite segment, Robo Reddit Reads. Now, in Ben's story, our robot interns detected the word wedding, then scanned Reddit and found a thread where user Oliaru asked, what wedding moment made you think, they're not gonna make it? And here are some of the best answers.
One of my good friends got married, and on the wedding day, she was belligerently drunk before the ceremony even started and couldn't even get through the lines she was supposed to repeat, such as, I promise to love you. She ended up slapping the groom, spilling champagne on her dress, and then crying under a table while he tried to comfort her. They lasted about 4 months.
You know, it's never a good sign if you're actively trying to erase the memory of what is supposed to be the happiest day of your life. Look, some people make a baby on their wedding night, other people turn into one.
My wife got invited to a client's daughter's wedding. The couple were both drama students. Many of the bridal party were drama students. The maid of honor's toast consisted of tearful declarations of unrequited love to the groom, along the lines of, if it couldn't be me, I'm glad it's my best friend that's marrying you. The best man's speech was a lusty declaration of, if it doesn't work out, call me babe, like the previous time you called me. Other toasts were similarly weird. A guy at the table I was seated at was a friend of the bride and said to me that he was this close to standing up during the speak now or forever hold your peace thing. I'm still not sure if the whole thing was a bunch of emotionally fucked up 20-year-olds, or one big piece of performance art.
I would totally go see that play. Also, haven't these people heard of polyamory? This can all work. They can have their cake and fuck it too.
Not the couple getting married, but the best man and maid of honor who were married to each other. Best man's speech was all about how hard it was to be married. I've been married for a year and it feels like 100 years. Maid of honor stands up to give a speech and just says ditto. It was so awkward and really brought the whole room down. Best man and maid of honor were divorced within a year. Couple who got married are still married 30 plus years later. I sometimes wonder if the speeches actually were helpful in how not to act as a couple.
Next time I have to give a speech at a wedding, I'm just saying ditto. I don't care what the person before me said, that's all I'm saying.
When a couple was doing the vows and the priest got to the for richer or poorer part and she said for richer or richer and maybe for poorer, the officiant was not pleased. I think they made it a year.
Oof, this lady sounds like the worst. I bet the officiant was like in sickness or in health, and she was like, I mean, as long as he's not like super sick, because that would be gross. She was like, I do, I guess. And these are all reasons why I'm never getting married. Thank you, robots. Do you have a cringy story you want to share with your best friends on #Storytime? Well, let us know on our Instagram at storytime.pod or call the Storytime hotline at 323-741-1873. Take a second and hit subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode featuring Mike Johns. Here's a sneaky little peeky.
And then a barker climbs up into the ring and he starts shouting at the crowd, "We're here today to see the battle between the literary giant, Michael Muhammad Knight, and the literal giant, Abdullah the Butcher."
Thank you so much for listening to #Storytime. I'd love to give another big Dankeschön to Ben Bowlin for being on the podcast. As always, you can find links to all the awesome stuff he has going on in the description. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a review. It helps us out a lot, and I literally read every single one of them. #Storytime is produced by iHeartRadio and Curativity Productions. Hosted by Will McFadden. Sound designed by Tony Maddox. Written by Will McFadden and Jason Shapiro. Produced by Jason Shapiro, Danielle Amora, and Jordan Elijah Michael. Theme song by Scott Simons. Artwork by John Kusagaya.